Hello and welcome back to the second episode of Chapter 55, the podcast where we talk about all the books that are really cool right now, and you probably see on Book Talk. This all the books you've been influenced to read. This is the episode where we're going to talk about Twisted Games by Ana Huang, and we are really excited about it. Okay, so Ken.
Yeah.
If you had to give an honest review of this book, and you can't give any spoilers, and you had to do it in 5 words, what would you say?
Oh my god, in 5 words. Too similar to the first.
Too similar to the first?
The first book.
How so?
Well, I can't give any spoilers, but
That's true. We'll get back
I
to
feel
that
like
then.
the tropes are very parallel.
Okay.
I'll leave it at
I can see that.
Outside of if you take away the princess thing, I think they're very similar.
Okay, so mine would probably be Christian Grey inspired Reese Larson.
Yeah. I see it.
We'll talk more about that later. Okay, so now this is where we're going to get into the spoiler section. So if you haven't read this book, I'm really glad that you like to listen to us for a grand total of 30 seconds. But now it's time to turn off the podcast and come back after you've read the book. I promise that you'll be much happier after you've read it. Actually, I can't make that guarantee, so please don't sue me. Okay, spoilers. What did you think of the first 100 pages? Like, just the first 100 pages.
The first 100 pages into it, I was like, is anyone going to have parents in any of these books? And I think the answer is no, because the next book is about Josh. So in the next book, he also doesn't have parents, but...
Okay, but Stella has parents. In the 4th book, Stella has parents.
That's great.
I doubt Kristen. If I was a betting woman, I'd say Kristen probably doesn't. But yeah. I kind of felt like the first 100 pages were kind of slow. It was a lot of like recapping the first book with the kidnapping and Reese being like, I'm always right, and Bridget being like, go F yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one person say that they thought it was too like quick romance, and I kind of see it, but I also kind of disagree. Like, I feel like the way that their story developed was okay. I think it was.
It took 2 years. Are you kidding?
Well, one of the reviews was like, I'm 10% into the book, and she's already got butterflies for him, and I was like, come on, it's a love story. It's what they all do.
Like, what? Have you ever been to high school? Yeah. I mean, he just walked into the room and you've got butterflies for him. So
yeah, it happens like that sometimes.
So I personally kind of felt like it was kind of slow. And I don't know, I found myself contemplating, like, is this necessary? But then I also understand why she wanted to do that build up, because when the build up happened, it was worth it. I felt like it was worth the wait. But what I really want to talk about is Reese. I want to just talk about him for a second. Okay. And I had so many moments reading his character, because his backstory, I mean, it's traumatic. He grew like his dad abandoned him. His mom was abusive. She died. You know, I can't remember what happened to him after. Did he go into foster care after that?
Oh man.
I don't think that was touched on. Okay, well, you know, his childhood was traumatic. We'll just leave it at that. And he's got CPTSD, and he was in the military, and he's like just kind of, I don't know, kind of reminded me of a stone. Just like unmoving, unpenetrable, just very like militant. And I don't know, like I had moments with him where he and Bridget would have like these like intimate moments, and I was like, are you just gonna be, oh, you're just gonna bend her over the dresser? Okay. That was like, say what you need to say.
I can't lie. I thought that the way that the smut was written in this book, I wasn't a fan. I was not a fan. He would be like, "My cock got hard," and then I'd be like, "All right, here we go again."
Yeah, I felt like, wow, oh, she just looked at him wrong, and now they're having a moment, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know, like his.
yeah,
I teetered the line with his possessiveness because there were moments where I was like, that's hot. And then there were moments where I was like, okay, buddy, can you like chill out? Like, she's got to date that guy. Like, she doesn't have a choice. Can you
yeah.
not?
But the book would be boring if that didn't happen.
Which is true, but I don't know. Just the human side of me is like, I'd be upset if I got spanked every time I did something I was supposed to. I mean, I'm sorry, hot take, I guess. I don't know. But I did feel that he had some character development. Because, like, beginning of book Reese and end of book Reese was much different. Also because, like, he started out as a private security guard with, like, no parents. And he ended the book with a deadbeat dad. And now he's, like, the prince consort of Eldora, which is... I would say he climbed the ladder pretty well, personally. So, and I also felt like, you know, towards the end of the book, especially when when him and Bridget like broke up, and he, you know, had that moment with Christian in the hotel room, and he found out who his dad was, and Andreas, all of that. I did feel like his character started to grow a little bit, just in being, I think, more affectionate towards Bridget and saying what he needed to say.
Yeah.
But then, like, he was always affectionate. Like, I made a note here about Costa Rica. And I thought that was, I don't know, what did you think of that? What did you think of their trip to Costa Rica?
I thought the Costa Rica thing was, it was sweet. It was romantic. But I do think it kind of showed his hand about, like, where he stood with her. Although, granted, they had already showed their hand a couple times at this point.
Well, the night before Costa Rica. The night before Costa Rica in the bedroom, he's like, I want to bend you over that dresser and absolutely pound you. I was like...
Right. And she was like, do it.
Well, and I thought Costa Rica was sweet. But what I really thought was interesting is after that whole thing was how she found a way to make it work. She was like, come with me for the transition. And he was just like, nah. And didn't do it. And at that point, I did have a moment of like, where is she going with this? Like, what's going to happen? How is he going to get to Eldora? Like, there's still a lot of book left.
Yeah. I mean, totally honest, I feel like I'm not a hater of a happily ever after. I don't think this book needed it. That's my hot take. I don't think it needed the happily ever after. I think we could have done without the last 100 pages and it would have been like a fine book. I feel like after they got back together, it was just kind of like drawn out. After the breakup, I was able to predict everything that happened. Besides like the cousin, but like...
Yeah, I was going to say, moving into like talking about the storyline, how did you think that they were going to get back together? Like, how did you think it was going to work out between them with the royal marriage law and all of that?
By about halfway through the book, I was like, okay, he's definitely like, he's going to figure out who his dad is and his dad's going to be royalty. I was able to call that. And then around
he wasn't royal.
Yeah, but I knew that they would find out who his dad was, and I knew that he would be like...
I had that feeling too. Yeah.
Yeah, I caught on to that pretty quickly. But then at about page 250, I was like, they're going to end up pulling some sort of like 7 husbands thing, and they're going to get married. Like, Bridget and Stefan are going to get married, and then they're both going to be with their lovers behind closed doors. And that actually ended up not happening. But I mean, I just wasn't super surprised by any of it. I was like, woohoo, blackmail, that's cool. But like, besides that, eh.
Low key, I was kind of surprised that Andreas was his brother, and then I had to like go back and do a double take to make sure they weren't related. I was like, wait.
I had to reread that page. I was like, hold on, is this
okay.
incest?
I know. I was like, okay, so Andreas is her cousin, but he's also Reese's brother. So how did that work? But then, yeah, like they're not related. But
yeah, I think Emma did a good job skating around that.
I had to take a moment, and I was like, I guess if they are, I'm just gonna accept this because it seems distant enough. It was a lot. It was a lot, and I was honestly, I didn't expect Andreas to be his brother. I really didn't expect that part. But I didn't expect and honestly I didn't expect him to be a ally either. I thought that he was going to be I really thought that it was going to come down to him exposing Bridget and Reese and to try and get the throne, but then he was like, "Nah, I'm just messing with her." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
But imagine the scandal if he did do that, because he wasn't even of royal blood, and then they found out that like that he was the king, and he. Sorry, this is fanfic that I'm writing right now. So personally, I am such a royal simp. I'm not like a royal family sympathizer, but I just finished reading Prince Harry's Spare. I think in the last podcast I said I wanted to read it, and I did. Yeah. And I just finished reading it, but I was like reading it alongside reading this book, and I was like, interesting. Oh, the paparazzi? Really? I was like, it's all the same. And then I was like, God. It was so I really like the royal storyline, but that's just me personally. I liked the drama there, but also recognizing that it is a made up country in Europe. And yeah. So I will say, talking about like the spiciness of this book, if you're into spice, like this is a book to read because it was very spicy.
I feel like it was not well placed at times.
Well, I guess it depends on who you are, because if you're the kind of person that thinks that just looking at each other warrants fucking, then I guess that you're in the right place.
Yeah. I was reading this book out loud to Stewie on a couple of nights, and then it would like get to the point where they were like just looking at each other, and he would get horny, and then Stewie would be like, "Dude, again."
I had to stop reading parts to Grayson because he would get upset. He'd be like, "That's not realistic, babe," and I was like, "It's just because you haven't tried it."
Yeah, it doesn't have to be realistic. This is a made up country. It doesn't exist.
This is all also, imagination.
It's a fine line to walk.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I felt like Bridget like hit her Power Girl era in this book though, because she was like, okay, so I thought it was wildly unfair that her brother was going to abdicate the throne to marry this girl that he fell in love with, and then it puts the like unnecessary pressure on Bridget, who was never trained to be the crown. She was the spare, she was not the heir. So I did feel like it was really unfair to Bridget. The whole storyline, that was really, I was thinking about that a lot. It was how unfair it felt. Because, you know, yeah, okay, I can understand the issues of you being with your bodyguard. Like, that's maybe not, optics aren't the best there, but if she wouldn't have been becoming queen, it wouldn't have been nearly as big of a deal. And the fact that like her brother escaped the situation to put her directly back in the same situation, I did not feel like that was talked about enough. And there was like not any real anger or resentment there. And I mean, Bridget's just a good person, I guess, but I'd be pissed personally.
I feel like she was pissed just in the beginning, but she was also like, okay, he's in love, so I get it. But I'm also like, if she could figure it out, why couldn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
But
they
I mean,
appealed the law. Come back. Take your
but
throne now.
that's the thing is like, oh, they repealed the law. And the fact that like she was not going to take no for an answer. Like she put her whole pussy into that. She was like, no, I'm going to be with this guy. And I don't know, maybe his brother didn't love Sabrina enough to do that. He was just like, I'm going to abdicate and move to California. Honestly, I think Anna Huang's had a conversation with Harry and Meghan before she wrote this book and was like, yes, this.
I don't know enough about royal anything. This is a great learning experience for me.
So the one scene though that I can't stop thinking about was when she was in the meeting and the vibrator scene. The vibrator scene was
No.
The vibrator scene was just, I'm convinced that Anna Huang had a girls' night and she watched Princess Diaries and 50 Shades of Grey back to back and she said, how can I make this work?
This is a princess. She's at a meeting.
All I can think
What
about
a terrible
is like
idea.
all I can think about is like Mia Thermopolis and Genovia. And have you seen the Princess Diaries?
Not for like 10 years.
Okay, well, all I could think about was like Princess Diaries 2 and what would have happened if that would have happened to Anne Hathaway's character. I hope somebody listening to this podcast has seen the Princess Diaries and appreciates that and thinks it's funny. Because those are the vibes.
I mean, it's funny, but it's so risky.
Right. And I don't know. I just hope she's wearing dark colored pants. That's all I have to say.
This book was very like exhibitionist. If you're into that, great. You're gonna love this book.
Yeah.
But like I can't handle the anxiety of that. I was like, oh my God.
I did think that the possessiveness was attractive at some points and then excessive at others. At some points I was like, yeah, okay, like I'm into that. Because it was kind of because like Alex was the same way in the last book. But in other points I was like, okay, can we chill?
I mean, I liked it.
I just meant more so like just the like you mentioned with the constantly having intercourse. I don't know. He'd be like,
yeah,
he would just like ask, I don't know, he would like ask things of her while they were having intimate times that she just couldn't do. He'd be like, you're not with anybody else but me. How does it feel like how do you think I feel when I see you talking to Stefan or whatever? And I'm like, bro, like she can't help that. But also I know that maybe
she feels the same way.
That's true. I'm just a sensitive little being. Well, I don't know. I will say I did like the book overall.
I do want to add this about the possessiveness.
Okay, let's chat.
I liked it. I thought it was fine. Because it added to the character and their relationship. I just feel like if that didn't happen, then it wouldn't have been as interesting to read. Even though it was a little unrealistic. Yeah. And sometimes it was a little bit like, okay, dude, she can't not ever touch another man. Like, she has to get married to someone else.
Also, it was hot.
Yeah. So I liked it. I don't have any complaints about the possessiveness.
Anyway. I mean, I did too. I just, it was the same complaint as you, basically. Like, well, she has to kind of stuff. But I liked it. And I mean, there was a lot of jaw-dropping moments where I was couldn't believe that was just said or that was just done. I think I texted you about the vibrator scene and was like, pages 240 to 250 are insane. This book, I will say, I did not tab a lot because I was just reading it. And I did not feel the need to stop and tab as much.
I feel like it goes better if we don't tab as much too. I mean, I still have like a good number of tabs on mine, but like with the Maid series that I'm reading on the side right now, I enjoy not having to tab it because it requires like two separate trains of thought whenever I'm reading and tabbing.
Yeah. Well, because I definitely read these books in like the scope of the podcast, like what can we talk about on the pod with these books, whereas like when I'm reading other books, I'm not, I don't know, sometimes I think I read one this week that I thought might have been good for a podcast, but not, you know, I wasn't really like going into it with that mindset. Just kind of let it happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall,
I like tabbing too, though.
And yeah, especially in good parts. You're like, oh, it's like putting a sticker on it.
It forces me to think deeper into it.
So the ratings. What would you rate this book 1 to 5 for hotness, like spiciness? What do you call that? Scovies? I don't know. It's a way of ranking like a hot peppers. Is scoves or scovies or something like that?
I've never heard of that.
It's a thing, I swear to you, because the California or the Carolina Reaper is like a bunch of scove. It's pretty hot. Scoville. It's Scoville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It depends because there's a lot. There's a lot of spice. I just didn't like the way it was written. I thought it was too graphic. I thought the words, it felt like it was written by a man who watches a lot of Pornhub. So I think it depends on what you're looking for.
So we give it a 5 for amount of sex.
I mean, I also think it was kind of too much. There was like a point in this book where it was just 50 pages straight of them having sex. And I was like, okay. I think it was like between 200 to 250.
Yeah.
Or something. Or maybe 150 to 200. But I don't know. There's like a 50-page stretch where it's just like bouncing between sex. And I don't know. Like it served its purpose, I guess. But I didn't like the way it was written. Like the chosen words for it were so like I don't know how to say it. But I just remember reading them and being like, why'd you have to phrase it like that?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd give it like a 4 for hotness. Just because it did give me it gave me moments where I felt good, you know. You were like, this is why I read this.
Yeah, I had like 1 or 2 scenes that were like that, but there were a lot where I was not like that, if that makes sense.
I think that's the difference between living with your significant other and having a long distance relationship is you're just going to take it where you can get it.
Yeah.
So you say it's like a 1 in hotness. That's great. You have someone to keep your bed warm. I say it's like a 5 because I sleep in the center of my bed because I ain't got nobody else there. So I think there's something to this theory. Oh my god. What about storyline? How would you rate it like 1 through 5 for the storyline?
Smut aside, I would give the storyline. I don't know how I would rate it. Like I think my overall rating is 3 out of 5. For the hotness, I would say like the frequency of it was probably a little too much. So depending on who you are, that's either a 5 out of 5 or a 3 out of 5. For how it was written, I would give it like a 3 out of 5. as far as the smut goes. Outside of the smut, I liked the storyline. I thought it was a bit predictable. I thought it was really similar to the first book. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was a bad book by any means, but I think, I don't know, it just feels like there are too many parallels. And so if I were to look at it as a unique storyline, I would give it probably like a 3.5 out of 5. But considering it's the second book in a series, and I think it is so similar to the first one in terms of who the characters are, I kind of give it like a 2.5 or a 3 out of 5. I'm so sorry, Anna.
I'd give it a 4. I really liked it. Princess Diaries is my favorite movie, and I really enjoyed the princess royal storyline. I really liked that. And honestly, it was like I was really into it personally. But I can understand the similarities between this book and the first book. And I could also, like, I understand why you would rate it that, I guess. And for me, I'm purely just biased and really enjoyed the particular thing that she was writing about. So yeah, I mean, I would give it 4 for spiciness, 4 for storyline. I guess if you're rating on like quality of spiciness, some people would probably argue that'd be a 5 because of how much there is.
I think that the spiciness is so particularly written that it really just depends on the reader on how much you're going to like.
It really does.
That applies to any book, but this one is like a very specific type of smut.
It really just depends on how much of a prude you are or how little of a prude you are, personally.
I guess I'm a bit of a prude.
I guess I'm not, which is what a plot twist.
Wow. Shocker.
We went from purity ring to like, ooh, I thought that vibrator in the meeting was pretty hot. Yeah. If my ex-boyfriends could hear me now,
they'd be like, "Oh my god, she's the devil."
I was. It'd be, "Oh my god, she kissed the devil," or "She kissed the devil."
I feel like, okay, I've seen a few people say that the second book is better than the first. You know my opinion on that already, but I want to know yours. How does it compare to the first? Do you like it better or worse?
I think it's the same. I just think it's a good continuation. I know there's standalones, but I do think the way that she laid out the first book, it really set us up for Bridget and Reese's story. And so it just felt like a continuation. And then I liked how into like this book, it kind of sets us up for the next 2 books. And so I understand that they're standalones. I get it, but I just think I really would just give them the same rating. It's really just different strokes for different folks kind of thing. They had different themes and elements. I mean, the first one I think was a little bit more dramatic in terms of all the things that happened and Alex's trauma with his family uncle situation, and there wasn't as much. I mean, there was still like family drama, but it wasn't as intense familial drama. So I guess it really just depends.
I feel like the characters were very similar. I feel like Bridget and Ava are very similar. Different situations, obviously, but I feel like they're both these sweet, innocent girls, and they have too positive of an outlook on things. And then Alex and Rice are like, they're both like super tough, hard shell to crack, and family trauma, and they both think that they're not good enough for love. And Yeah, I mean, they're both these powerful people, intimidating people. They're both possessive, and I just feel like the key characteristics of these people are all very, like, you could describe them using the same
Yeah.
terms.
Personally, I felt like Bridget was a little bit more of like a boss bitch than Ava was. I felt like Ava
Yeah,
was a little more dainty,
I
a
agree.
little more reserved, nervous. Bridget was much more out there. I would say Bridget was more confident than Ava was. I felt like her character, and I think that's probably just a product of her upbringing, being brought up in front of the world, the press, and it probably just made her a little bit more confident. And like, so I get like the grumpy sunshine, like they
Yeah.
both had grumpy sunshine elements. I definitely agree with that, but I didn't feel like Reese was as powerful as Alex. Like Reese was a little bit more of a regular person in a sense, whereas Alex was like this
Kinda.
multi-millionaire CEO type
Their
of
powers are different
situation.
because Rice is a Navy
Yeah.
SEAL, right? So he knows how to kill someone with his like pinky finger.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
Alex has enough money to pay someone to kill
right?
them with their pinky finger.
But
So that's
Rice will
the
just do it himself.
yeah, like what did he say? He's like, I know 79 ways to kill somebody, and I can make 70 of them look like an accident.
Yeah.
There we go. So overall, I'm enjoying this series. I'm curious to see what the next two books are like. And I'm curious to see in the third book with Twisted Hate how the stuff is brought up with Josh's dad. And like Josh's perspective on all of that.
And then in Twisted Hate, there is no note. So I don't know where it's going to pick up. I don't know if it's going to pick up on its own storyline.
Well,
I kind of don't want to relive the first book again, Twisted Love.
Right. I'm pretty sure it's going to pick up after Twisted Games because at Bridget and Reese's wedding, they were fighting with each other. Like they didn't seem like they were together yet. Like you could tell things were like starting, but they weren't.
Yeah. But that's how it was with Twisted Games too, right? Or that's how Twisted Love ended.
Right. It was how Twisted Love ended. And so
she
they
kind of braided this into that storyline. And she could do that with Twisted Hate. I kind of hope she doesn't.
Yeah, maybe she'll do it more with Twisted Lies. Like maybe Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies will be more intertwined with each other. Because we got our first real introduction to Stella and Christian at the end of Twisted Games. At the wedding.
I forgot who Stella and Christian are.
That's okay.
Stella's the influencer friend, right?
Yeah, Stella's the influencer, and Christian's the guy that showed up in Reese's hotel room and was like, "Get out of bed."
Okay. Yeah. His boss. The book that I'm reading right now, the second book in the Maid series, the main character's name is Christian. So now I have too many Christians and too many Rices and Rice Reese or whatever. Like I have so many of the same names like floating in my head now.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else, or is that it for the pod today?
I think that's it. Should we read the synopsis for next week or the next pod?
Let me grab it. Unless you want to read this week. Do you want to read it this week?
I don't really have a preference.
Okay, you already have it in your hands, so you do it. I don't want to dig through my book bin.
Okay. Well, just for clarity's sake, our next podcast is going to go up on Monday, February 20th. So I accidentally said next week. It'll be on the 20th. So whenever we go over Twisted Hate. And the synopsis. The possibility of you is better than the reality of anyone else. Gorgeous, cocky, and fast on his way to becoming a hotshot doctor, Josh Chen has never met a woman he couldn't charm, except for Jules Ambrose. The beautiful redhead had been a thorn in his side since they met, but she also consumes his thoughts in a way no woman ever has. When their animosity explodes into one unforgettable night, he proposes a solution that'll get her out of his system once and for all. An enemies with benefits arrangement with simple rules. No jealousy, no strings attached, and absolutely no falling in love. Outgoing and ambitious, Jules Ambrose is a former party girl who's focused on one thing: passing the attorney's bar exam. The last thing she needs is to get involved with the doctor who puts the sufferer in insufferable, no matter how good looking he is. But the more she gets to know him, the more she realizes there's more than meets the eye to the man she's hated for so long: her best friend's brother, her nemesis, and her only salvation. Theirs is a match made in hell, and when the demons from their past catch up with them, they're forced to face the truths that could either save them or destroy everything they've worked for. It sounds like ugly love.
Hopefully there's no, yeah, I don't want to relive that experience.
My heart can't take it.
Just you guys wait. We're going to do a podcast on ugly love eventually. So
I feel like that'll be a controversial one. There's a lot of like mixed reviews on ugly love. Like the more I see people talk about it, there are so many people who are like, I hated it.
Okay. Well, that's it for the podcast this week. I hope you guys enjoyed our ramblings about Twisted Games.
Of course.
Anyway, you guys have a great week and a great rest of your day. Be safe. Make
We'll
good
see you
choices.
on the 20th.
Bye, guys.
Bye.